I've come around on Aaron Rodgers to the Giants for multiple reasons. It doesn't mean that I don't still have serious reservations about Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback on any team right now. He's going to be 41 years old. He is still less than 2 years removed from an Achilles tendon surgery. He was banged up and injured in multiple ways last year. And yet, he did play some really good football at times. Once in the second half versus my Houston Texans, he looked like an all-pro quarterback. And the fact of the matter is, even though athletes have come a long way in coming back quicker from Achilles tendon tears, I think it's different when it's a 40-year-old and he was still only 1 year removed from his Achilles tendon surgery. That second year, you still tend to see a better version of the athlete. The age is going to be a big issue regardless, but I think there's reason to believe that he could be more like his old self just because he's 2 years removed from that Achilles tendon tear. And you might say, well, no, what if they can draft Cam Ward? By all means, draft Cam Ward. I think one of the biggest hunks of nonsense in the NFL these days is that if you draft the quarterback in the top 10, that guy's got to start immediately day one because, hey, that's why you draft him, because he's ready to play. Maybe in the past it was that way, but I think now what you're seeing is quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 who in previous generations might not have even been a second-round pick or would have been looked at as developmental prospects. If you look at the success rate of quarterbacks taken in the first round, it's about 33%, maybe 25% if you consider that guy a franchise quarterback. That's very loose given that there's no strict definition of a franchise quarterback. So if the prevailing wisdom is you got to start them right away, I don't look at a 25% or 33% success rate as overwhelming evidence that that's the right strategy. There's going to be busts at every position. I get it. But there's just too many examples of guys who came through slowly, like Pat Mahomes. I would argue that we might be seeing that with Bryce Young. Bryce Young was benched in his second season, had some time to absorb and reflect and learn, and he came back and he played a lot better after he was put back in as the starter this year. So for a team like the Giants, where, yes, you're very much building towards the future, the number one linchpin for that is, do you have a quarterback? And if they like Cam Ward's potential enough to take him in the first round, then by all means, take every opportunity to really develop him the right way. So then the natural question is, all right, is Aaron Rodgers the right guy to be the tutor to a young quarterback? A lot of the non-headline grabbing reports from the Jets last year were that Aaron Rodgers got along great with most of his teammates. And I think we know and he established that he can operate without looking over his shoulder like somehow he's competing with Brett Favre or something. So in my mind, the biggest barriers, and these are the barriers that the Giants would have to acknowledge and address and prevent, is A, what is Aaron Rodgers' genuine commitment? We can't be having him taking trips to Egypt to miss mandatory team events. I know people tried to minimalize that at the time, but I think it's something that 100% matters when you're trying to reestablish your prominence as a team. It's one thing when Tom Brady would miss parts of the offseason with the Patriots when they were already established. It's quite another when you're trying to establish a winning culture. And then the second and the biggest thing is that Aaron Rodgers simply cannot have as much control or influence over personnel decisions, both on the player side and on the coaching side. The Jets bent over backwards and stocked their team with people who weren't suited to the position. Nathaniel Hackett has never established himself as a good NFL offensive coordinator. They brought him in. Randall Cobb was once a very good NFL receiver, but they brought him in, and Alan Lazard. But then in the biggest obstacle, and the one that I just don't know if there's a comfortable answer to, is that Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback prefers to run kind of an antiquated offense. As an offensive coordinator, Aaron Rodgers would be getting screamed at by fans saying, where's the pre-snap motion? Why are we so stagnant? And it's because Rodgers tends to operate best when he's got veteran receivers that he knows and trusts, that he's got that sixth sense communication with. He's not going to have that. You're not going to bring in Randall Cobb. Maybe they bring in Devontae Adams, but it's got to be more than just that. So Aaron Rodgers, even though I know he's been through this spiritual and introspective journey these last couple years, he was, and to his credit, he was willing to take less money. He actually gave himself a pay cut to try to get more talent on the Jets. That was something that very few NFL quarterbacks are going to do at any age. He's still got to exercise some of that ego death that he's always talking about on podcasts and accept Brian Daboll or whomever else's input into how the way the offense needs to operate. And as an old dog, he might have to learn new tricks. And I don't know if there's a way to genuinely know whether he's up for that or not. But as skeptical as I've been about Aaron Rodgers, the one gut test that I always try to use, it's actually more of a sphincter test, where if I imagine my Texans going against, say, the Tennessee Titans and Aaron Rodgers is out there, I know from personal experience that he still has those great stretches in him. I haven't watched him do it against the Texans with the Jets last year. In year one, if I'm facing a team that's got Aaron Rodgers and a Cam Ward, I'm going to be more nervous about Aaron Rodgers if he's got the other pieces around him, if he doesn't have to be scrambling as much, but I do think he'll scramble better. So it's going to be fascinating to watch in this weird offseason where somehow we're waiting for the Sam Darnold domino to fall before everything else locks into place. Go. What do you got to lose? You lost Saquon Barkley. You didn't do anything with Daniel Jones. Get the old codger in there after a heroic dose of psilocybin and ayahuasca and see what he can do.